Good afternoon, students. Are you hearing my voice? Are you hearing my voice? Okay, right. Okay, good afternoon once again. We'll start now. Okay, so regarding our second paper, socio-economic and history of modern India, we already covered the first two concepts, sources to study in the two parts. Okay, so various sources you covered, we already discussed to know about the social and economic history of modern India. So the next concept is a brief political history of a modern India between 1707 to 1947. Okay, this is a duration of our syllabus. Okay, so before going to a detailed uh, history of a political history between this period, we have to see the a important aspect which uh, which happened before 1707. Okay, so 1707 is a basic year in which the last the last imperial Mughal ruler Aurangzeb has died. Then there is a later Mughal ruling has started. Okay, so before going to the later Mughals rule, we have to know the end of the imperial Mughal rule. Okay, so the first phase of Mughal rule. So various reasons for the decline of Mughal India, because you are already aware that many development has taken place between 1526 to 1707, and many changes particularly in the society has taken place. Many developments particularly in the field of industry, agriculture, and economy, and culture, many development has taken place. There is a composite culture has emerged during the first phase of Mughal. Okay, so because the Mughals are his origin as not a native one, they are from the other parts of the Indian subcontinent. So they brought a new tradition or a culture to the Indian subcontinent. Okay, so then onwards, which showed a much influence on the existing Indian culture. Okay, so there is already a mixed culture which in Indian society. So with that, there is certain other added cultural aspect to the existing one. Okay, so there is composite of culture has taken place. and also there is another other developments also are taken place. Okay, so all these are you are already aware, which from Babur to Aurangzeb and the greatness of Akbar and his a great contribution to Indian society. All these are things you already have. Okay, so just we going to see that please mute yourself, mute yourself. Okay, mute your audio. Okay, so there are certain things which happen due to the contribution of great rulers like Babur, Akbar, and Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb, like that. Okay, so which in 1707, the Aurangzeb's death a great loss to the imperial Mughals. Okay, so after later Mughals rule has started, Bahadur Shah I came to the power, and up to the 1857, this later rule, Mughals rule has continued. Okay, so before going to the political description of these later Mughal rules, we'll see there is a decline end of a mighty emperor. Not totally, it's partially decline of the Mughal. Okay, there, for the decline of Mughal rule, there are certain causes. Among them, the weakness of later Mughals is one, and the religious policy of Aurangzeb, and also the more expensive on the monuments during Shah Jahan, also important one. And there are other causes for decline of the Mughal rule is there is a certain movements or revolts taken place during the Mughal time. Jats who revolted against the Mughals, and the Sikhs revolt the Mughals, and one side the Rajputs also against the Mughal rule. Okay, so all these are certain internal disturbances which taken place during the Mughal Empire. Okay, so all these are leads to the decline of Mughal Empire, right? So before going to a brief political note on the later Mughals, I will give you certain things how the Mughal rule is ended. The empirical Mughal rule is ended. Okay, so how the first phase of Mughal rule is ended, I will give you certain things from the various sources which I prepared a notes here. Okay, so here in 1707, the year of Aurangzeb's death, the Mughal Empire had reached its farthest physical limits. The conquest of kings of Bijapur and Golconda in the late 1680s had made the empire spread to southern edge of Deccan Peninsula and brought almost the entire subcontinent under the Mughal sovereignty. Yet the Mughal empirical structure collapsed within 40 years of Aurangzeb's death. By the middle of the century, the empire lay in ruins with the vast possessions reduced to a roughly rectangular wedge of territory about 250 miles from north to south and 100 miles broad. Okay, so how do we understand this apparent paradox means? So there are certain answers for this. Okay, to do so, we need to trace briefly the fault lines of Mughal administrative system. To begin with, Mughal emperor was Shahanshah, king of kings, one sovereign among many, and not the alone. Okay, not the alone. Okay, not the alone. Despotic sovereign. This means that the empire was poised on negotiations and accommodation of a competition between different groups of nobles and aristocrats, military and revenue officers, among whom authority was distributed hierarchically. The emperor stood at the apex of this segmentary structure, with members of the aristocracy owing different degrees of personal loyalty to him. Effective functioning of the system depended on the judicious tweaking of conflicts and maintaining the balance of the power. Along Alongside, there was a centralized administrative apparatus developed by the genius Emperor Akbar in the 16th century that intimately linked bureaucracy and military aristocracy. Power was distributed and delegated among the elite in the manner that strengthened the military basis of the war state and retained the supremacy of the emperor. The Mansabdari system conferred on each Mansabdar nothing but the military officer, a dual numerical rank of Jat and Sawar, where Jat signified a personal rank and Sawar is denoted the number of horsemen that the was Mansabdar was required to maintain for the Mughal state. Okay, so when you see this, okay, so next one, okay, so the payment for service and maintaining soldiers and horses was made in most cases with assignment of the light to collect revenue from a jagir. Jagir is a landed estate. Okay, so jagirs were two kinds. That is the tanka, which is a transferable jagir, and watan is non-transferable. Okay, so given the logic of the system, most jagirs were transferable. Okay, so watan jagirs represented a compromise with powerful local princes and landlords who agreed to offer offer a uh, um, uh, agreed to okay, so offer a allegiance to the emperor only on condition that their lands were recognized as what. Okay, so while some princes and landlords were incorporated as Mughal officers by the acknowledgement of Watan Jagirs in regions under direct imperial control. Powerful princes on the fringes of the empire retained autonomy over internal affairs and only agreed to pay an annual tribute to the emperor in recognition of his overall suzerainty. Okay, so the Mansabdari system undoubtedly consolidated the emperor's position as Shahanshah. Ranks and Jagirs were confirmed, transferred, or dismissed at his will. The power was shared on the basis of direct loyalty to him. Loyalty to him. The imperial government commanded the right to assemble and dispatch Mansabdars with their contingents to any points at any time if they need arose. This centralized apparatus allowed an absolute monarchy to hold its own and function for 150 years without any serious threat. At the same time, the system produced intense competition among various ethnic and caste groups who comprised the Mughal nobility. It also pushed the Mughal state toward constant, consent expansion of territories. It was the only way of increasing resources and assigning new jagirs. Aurangzeb was in the Deccan were expensive. They stretched the treasury to its limits. Acquisition of new territories brought new players in the tussle for prestige and authority. Okay, you are already aware that. So Aurangzeb's Deccan policy, which is a important reason for this Mughal decline. Okay, so in particular the incorporation of what is known as the Dakkani group in the aristocracy, heightening tension and conflicts among the established nobility composed of rival Irani, Turani, and Hindustani factions. These groups presented the favor. Aurangzeb showed a diplomatic gesture to new Masabdas and commanders recruited from the defeated territories of the southern sultanates of Bijapur and Golconda. Okay, so on the other hand, officials stationed in Deccan complained uh, that complained that okay, so complained that revenue from Jagirs was insufficient for their expenses. Thus, okay, so revenue from their Jagirs was insufficient for their expenses. Thus, the ties that bound the old and new officials in the Deccan to the Mughal Empire became less and less firm. In fact, Mansabdas, affected by the gap in the demand and actual collection of revenue, reduced the number of soldiers and horses that they were supposed to maintain and tried to extract as much revenue as possible from landlords and peasants. Okay, this simultaneously weakened the military might of empire and caused disaffection among the landlords and the peasants. Okay, so the years between 1689 and 1719 witnessed unrest in the heartland of the empire. Okay, so the Jat chieftains and Jamindars in Agra and Mathura came out in open revolt. Okay, so already we discussed a point that there are certain internal disturbances has taken place. Okay, by the Jats and also Sikhs and also Rajputs. Okay, so the Jat chieftains and Jamindars in Agra and Madura regions came out in open revolt. Okay, they used their strategic position in intercept and plunder the bullock trains of treasure and the trade passing into the Gangetic Basin from the Deccan. Okay, so they are giving certain troubles to the Mughal army while supplying certain food grains or certain weapons to one place to other through the Gangetic Basin. Okay, so causing that route to be abandoned. Okay, Aurangzeb's army. Okay, this happened majorly in the times of Aurangzeb itself. Okay, so Aurangzeb's army sent to subdue the Jats was humiliated, and his subsequent attempts to quell the revolt prompted some alienated Rajput houses. Okay, resolute in opposing the restoration of imperial control to support the Jats. Aurangzeb died at this critical juncture, and his death occasioned a struggle for power among the three surviving sons. Okay, the winner Mujam ascended the throne with the title of Bahadur Shah. He was 63 at the time of uh, 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 time at time and was died within the next 5 years. Okay, so it means what? There is a weakness of the then Mughal rulers. Okay, the later Mughals. There was a little Bahadur Shah could do to stave their decline. The Jat revolt had encouraged other forces, the Sikhs in Punjab and Marathas in the Deccan, to challenge Mughal authority. Okay, so the Sikhs, a loose and divergent group, spread across the northern India. Particularly, the urban centers of the vast Gangetic plain were followers of Guru Nanak, an upper caste Hindu who founded the Sikh community in central Punjab in 1520s. Under the guidance of a line of gurus, the community evolved and expanded its base, and by the turn of 17th century had come to be perceived as a threat to Mughal administration at large. The tension between the Sikhs and Mughals resulted in the execution of the fifth Guru Arjan in Lahore, following which Sikh centers was moved to Sivalik Hills. The 10th, okay, so the 10th Guru, Guru Govind Singh, the 10th Guru, Guru Govind Singh, dissolved the line of personal gurus and conferred its authority on the Adi Granth, the original book, the primary scripture that contains sayings of Guru Nanak, and in the Sikh Panth that came to include in the community. Okay, so anyhow, the Sikhs were continuously giving trouble to the Mughals and later also. Okay, so at the beginning of 18th century, the Sikhs were provided leadership by Banda Bahadur, a charismatic Muslim-born Sikh who gained political power after assassination of the last Guru, Govind Singh. Earlier in the late 17th century, the Marathas under Shivaji had also successfully demonstrated the vulnerability of Mughal army. Okay, this did not, of course, signify that there was a new self-contained Maratha system or a Shivaji Maharashtra from 17th century. Rather, there was a gradual, many-sided process of centralization that coexisted with several centrifugal institutions and identities well into the 18th century. In the late 19th century, 20th and 21st centuries, however, Shivaji's resistance has come to viewed as a Hindu challenge to the Muslim aggression. Shivaji has been appreciated as a popular hero at times as a national Hindu hero. The Sikh challenge similarly has come to be seen as ideologically motivated. Okay, so the Marathas attack on the Mughal throne also a important disturbance which created a way to the decline of Mughal Empire. Okay, so as we'll see in the section of the mighty Marathas, Maratha speakers were divided by caste and class status, and they owed different degrees allegiance to the Mughals. Okay, so anyhow, the Marathas were given trouble to trouble to these Mughals. Okay, so and when you see other things, okay, so and at the same time, successful resistance of the Marathas and Sikhs encouraged many jamindars and landlords with local roots, power and prestige. Okay, to the authority of the emperor once central power weakened, Mughal officers such as Diwans, revenue collectors, okay, Diwans and Subedars who did not have local roots but had authority as representatives of the sovereign followed the suit. Okay, in the 1720, revenue officers and governors of the rich provinces of Bengal and Awadh set themselves up to a independent rulers, appointed their own officials, and nominated their own successor, serving virtually as ties with the Mughal state. Okay, so they are challenging the Mughal authority and became the independent. Okay, so the trend was set by the imperial prime minister Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah. He moved to Hyderabad in 1724, withdrew from imperial projects and started functioning as an autonomous school. The emperor granted dignity to the defiant move by recognizing the Nizam as the viceroy of southern part of the empire. But for all practical purposes, the Nizam had Nawabs of Bengal and Awadh had become independent. Soon, this was followed by the local rulers and provincial magnates received support from the Hindu, Jain moneylenders and merchants, vital players in the functioning of the Mughal taxation system and commodity production. Okay, this support enabled them to consolidate their authority. Okay, so paradoxically, then commercial growth, which had scored the power of Delhi, ultimately eroded it. Okay, so after Aurangzeb, the absence of an the emperor capable of commanding loyalty and elegance and handling the conflicts with care as well as the incent wars of succession hastened Mughal decline. Okay, so after death of the after death of the Aurangzeb, there is a war of succession has taken place between the three sons of Aurangzeb. Okay, so the war of succession also a important cause for decline of the Mughal Empire. Okay, so another one uh, to make matters worse, internal rebellions were accompanied by the foreign invasions. Okay, often propelled by the decline of Islamic empires in the West and Central Asia. The Persian invasions under Nadir Shah in 1738-39, which entitled loot and plunder of Delhi, including the famed Kohinoor diamond, which is also a important trouble given to the Mughal dynasty. Okay, so the Nadir Shah invasion also a important cause for decline of Mughal Empire. Okay, so and the repelling the first Afghan raid in 1748, the signified very limited and temporary success. The Afghans under Ahmad Shah Abdali returned in 1758, and Ahmad Shah Abdali's which invasion also another important thing for the decline of Mughal Empire. Okay, so they conquered Punjab and ransacked Delhi. Okay, the Mughals and Marathas combined against the Afghans in the Battle of Panipat in 1761, but were defeated. Okay, to the relief of Mughals, Abdali had to retain hostility to Afghanistan, but the days of Mughals were all but over. Okay, so trouble was brewing all over the empire. Weakness of the central power encouraged not only local elites but also ambitious figures of lowly origin to stake claims to power and certain a small revolutionaries also which came to the scene. Okay, so the best example is the Sardar Papa Raidu or Sardar Papanna or Papadu, a member of the low taddy tapping caste of Telangana, gathered an army of several thousand men from untouchables and low class castes and carried out year-long assaults in several major towns in Telangana. Such resistance was not destined to succeed, yet it revealed the frustrations of the subordinate members of the society, subject to the double authority of imperial local and social hierarchies and their aspirations for the different social order. Okay, so this such a revolts which given rise to or given certain troubles to the Mughal authority from the various regions of Indian subcontinent. Okay, so apart from these, many other economical aspects are which caused for the Mughal decline. Okay, Mughal, the Imperial Mughal, the first phase of Mughal is a period where the Europeans they are entered in India and they are settling particularly during this period only, and they gradually strengthen their power also. Okay, so they power in the coastal part of the whole Indian subcontinent, and they established various trade settlements at those places also. Okay, particularly in the western and eastern coast, they were very strong at that time, and they introduced many commercial aspects uh, uh, to the Indian society. Okay, so they introduced many cash crops at that time, and that is the period there is the industrial revolution has started in India. Okay, so many European nations established started establishing many industries in India, in Indian regions. Okay, so it means what the Mughals were not much much not they are not they are not concentrate on the things followed by the Europeans at that time. Okay, so they are not restricted these Europeans to a particular areas at that time. Okay, so another thing is that another one is the in the economical aspects, in defense aspects. These Mughals were not concentrate on a navy, and they are not even controlling the 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 areas of sea or the sea coast. Okay, so that is also a drawback. Okay, they never maintain a navy. Okay, so all these are the um, uh, various things which leads to the decline of the uh, the uh, Mughal first phase of Mughal Empire. Okay, not totally collapse. There is another phase, a later phase, which is carried by the later Mughals up to 1857. Okay, so these are the things about the end of Mughal era, end of the first phase of Mughal era. Tomorrow we're going to see about a brief history of later Mughals, and then we'll go detailed with the things detail uh, things in detail about the East India Company and the um, the establishment of European nations politically and economically on Indian territories. Okay, so have you any doubts or queries? You may ask now. Okay, okay. So Chinnagaya and Sri Vidya, you have any doubts? No, Sri Vidya. Right. So no doubts. Okay, tomorrow we're going to see the remaining topics, particularly the brief history of the later Mughals. We'll start from the Bahadur Shah I to the Bahadur Shah to Jafar, the last ruler of Mughals. So this is the end of the today's class. Um, shall I end up my class today? Okay, so I will ending my class today. I will meet you again tomorrow. Okay, thank you.